Hi, my name is Kate. I'm 55, and I work as a marketing consultant for a small tech startup in a cozy town just outside Chicago. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. And after everything I've been through, stability has meant the world to me. I've been divorced for 5 years now. I don't talk much about it. People don't know the whole story, and that's okay. I'm the kind of woman who keeps a steady routine, never forgets a meeting, and always has a backup plan. I'm just here, quietly living my life, just me and my cat. Cinnamon Dot, it's the kind of life I've grown to accept, even if it's not the life I imagined when I was younger. I'd always dreamed of adventure, excitement, love, but that seemed like something for other people. For people who still had their hearts full and their eyes sparkling with hope. That was a lifetime ago. The divorce took more than I could ever explain to anyone. When I married Tom, I was young and naive. He was my whole world, and I believed with every fiber of my being that we were meant to be together forever. But then, life happened. Little things piled up over the years, unspoken resentments, unshared dreams, and a creeping sense of isolation. By the time I realized we were both living different lives under the same roof, it was already too late to fix things. The divorce was messy, painful, and left scars I still carry since then. I've stayed focused on rebuilding my life. I've thrown myself into my work, trying to fill the empty spaces with productivity and purpose. And for the most part, it's worked. My job keeps me busy, and my routine provides comfort. But deep down, I knew I was missing something bigger, something more profound. I just never had the courage to admit it. That Thursday started just like any other. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., as I always did, and made myself a strong cup of coffee. Cinnamon, my cat, jumped onto the counter and nudged my hand, demanding attention. I smiled and scratched her behind the ears. It was a little routine I looked forward to every morning, that quiet moment before the rest of the world awakened. By 7:30 a.m., I was out the door and on my way to the office. The sky was overcast, the kind of grey day that makes you want to stay curled up under a blanket. But I had a job to do, and I wasn't one to waste time. I spent the rest of the morning organizing emails, scheduling meetings, and drafting proposals, all while sipping my coffee from my favorite mug, the one that said coffee is the answer to everything. It had been a gift from my best friend, Sarah, and it reminded me that no matter how chaotic life got, a cup of coffee could make everything feel a little better. By lunchtime, the office had that usual hum. Phones ringing, quiet chatter in the break room, and the tap of keyboards filling the air. But just as I was about to head to the kitchen for a quick snack, I overheard a conversation near the lobby. It wasn't unusual to hear voices coming from the front entrance. Our office was always buzzing with new clients, vendors, and occasional visitors. But there was something different about this conversation. I heard laughter, followed by the sound of a deeper male voice. A voice that was rich, confident. And then I heard my boss, Mr. Westbrook, chuckle in his usual way. "Come on in, Noah. Let me introduce you to the team," Mr. Westbrook said. Noah. My curiosity piqued. I turned my head toward the lobby. I didn't know many of Mr. Westbrook's associates, but I did know the name Noah Brooks. He was the new project manager everyone had been talking about. I hadn't met him yet, but I'd heard rumors. They said he was young, ambitious, and full of ideas. There were whispers about his good looks too, but I hadn't given it much thought. After all, I was way beyond the age of looking at young men with interest. Or so I thought. I quickly returned to my paperwork, trying not to seem too curious. But the moment I heard the soft click of footsteps in the hallway, I couldn't help but glance up. And that's when I saw him. Noah Brooks, standing in the doorway of my office, smiling at me like he had known me forever. His dark hair was neatly styled, and his eyes, a striking shade of brown, seemed to see right through me. He was taller than I expected, with broad shoulders and a posture that exuded confidence. Gone was the college intern I had heard about. In passing, a polite, quiet kid who came in to help with a summer project. This was a man, fully formed, who walked with an easy grace that made the air around him shift. "Kate?" he said, his voice deep and calm. "And Noah Brooks. We're supposed to have a meeting?" I froze for a moment, caught off guard. "Yes, that's me," I said, clearing my throat and standing up. "I'm Kate. It's nice to meet you." And then he smiled. Not just a polite grin, but a real smile, one that made my stomach do a little flip. I told myself it was nothing. He was just being professional, just being friendly. But there was something in the way his gaze lingered for a second longer than necessary that made my heart race. I motioned for him to sit. "Please, have a seat." Noah sat down across from me, and we quickly got to work on the project we were supposed to discuss. He was articulate, intelligent, and engaged. His ideas were fresh, innovative, and his enthusiasm was contagious. For the first time in a long while, I found myself really interested in what someone was saying. His passion for his work was so palpable, so alive, that it drew me in as the meeting went on. I couldn't help but notice the small things, the way he would occasionally glance at me with a look of deep concentration, like he was studying me. The way his fingers tapped lightly on the table, a rhythm I couldn't ignore. The way the air between us seemed to thrum with something unspoken. But I wasn't going to think about that. I couldn't. I was too old for this kind of thing. Too old for flutters in my chest when a handsome man walked into the room. After the meeting, Noah stood up and offered his hand. "It was really great to meet you, Kate. I'm looking forward to working together." I shook his hand, my fingers trembling slightly. I cursed myself for it. I was a grown woman. This wasn't a high school crush. And yet, as Noah left my office, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Something inside me that I thought was long dead had stirred like a small flame reigniting after years of neglect. As the day wore on, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying the meeting in my head, over and over. His smile. The way his eyes met mine. That electric moment, when I realized I was not just another person in the room to him. I had been seen. Truly seen. That night, as I sat at home, alone with Cinnamon curled up at my feet, I found myself thinking about him again. Was I imagining things? Was he flirting with me? Or was I just desperately looking for something, anything, to pull me out of my own routine, out of the numbness I had been living in for so long? It felt like a question I couldn't answer, a question I didn't want to answer. And yet, I knew deep down that the answer was already forming. Something had changed. Something big. And I wasn't sure whether that was a good thing or a dangerous one. The days following that strange and unexpected meeting with Noah were a whirlwind. Work was busy, as always, but my mind kept drifting back to him. I couldn't help it every time I saw him around the office. My heart would race, and I'd find myself unable to focus on anything else. I told myself it was just a fleeting crush, something that would fade once the novelty wore off. But that wasn't the case. Noah's presence in the office became a constant distraction. It wasn't just his looks, though those certainly didn't help. It was the way he carried himself, the way he made everything seem so effortless, the way his eyes would find mine from across the room, a silent connection that sent shivers down my spine. I tried to ignore it. I tried to focus on my work, to remind myself that I was too old for this, too experienced for these kinds of distractions. But nothing worked. Every time he entered a room, I felt like the world shifted. When he passed by my desk, he always seemed to glance over, his eyes lingering just long enough for me to notice. At first, I told myself it was nothing. A simple courtesy, maybe. But, as the days went on, I couldn't deny that there was something more in his gaze. Something deeper, more intense. And it made my pulse race. One afternoon, after another long day of meetings and project planning, I found myself working late in the office, going through marketing reports and updating some client files. It was quiet, just the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead and the occasional rustle of papers. I wasn't expecting anyone to be there. Most of the team had gone home hours ago. I was so focused on my work that I didn't hear the soft click of the door as it opened. When I finally looked up, I was surprised to see Noah standing in the doorway, his hand resting casually on the doorframe. He looked different tonight. His tie had been loosened, his sleeves rolled up, and he was wearing that same confident smile that made my heart skip a beat. But there was something else in his eyes. Something darker, more intense. "Working late?" he asked, his voice low and smooth. I nodded, trying to hide the nervous flutter in my chest. "Just catching up on some things. You know how it is." Noah didn't move. He just stood there for a moment, studying me, his gaze unreadable. I was wondering if we could talk. About the project. Or about something else. I swallowed, suddenly aware of how close he was. How the air between us seemed to thicken with unspoken words. I should have said no. I should have told him. I had a lot of work to do, that it was late and we'd catch up tomorrow. But something in me, something I hadn't felt in years, was drawn to him, to the promise of something more. "Sure," I said, my voice betraying me. "Come on in." He walked over to the chair across from my desk and sat down, his eyes still fixed on me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us felt charged, full of unspoken tension. I could feel my pulse quicken as he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, his gaze never leaving mine. "You know," Noah said, his voice softer now, almost teasing. "I've been thinking about something. About what you said that day in the meeting." I frowned, trying to remember what I had said. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "You said that life happens and we just keep going. But I don't think that's all there is to it, Kate. Life isn't about just going through the motions. It's about feeling something, about living fully. Don't you think?" I wasn't sure how to respond. His words hit me hard, like a truth I had been avoiding for years. I had spent so long pretending to be content with my quiet, predictable life that I had forgotten what it felt like to truly live, to truly feel. "You're right," I whispered, the words coming out before I could stop them. "I've been going through the motions, just surviving." Noah nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. "We all do it to some extent, but it doesn't have to be that way, Kate. There's more out there for you. More than just work, more than just routine. You deserve more." The intensity in his voice made my heart race. I wanted to look away, to break the gaze between us, but I couldn't. It was like something invisible was holding me in place, something I didn't understand, but couldn't resist. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "I mean, I think you deserve to be happy again," he said quietly. "You deserve to feel alive, to have excitement and passion in your life. Don't you want that?" It felt like a trap. I knew it was dangerous, that even acknowledging his words meant crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But there was a part that had been dormant for so long that wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for me to have something real, something more. "I don't know," I said softly, my voice trembling. "I haven't really thought about it, about anything outside of work, outside of the routine." I've just been focused on getting through each day. Noah leaned back in his chair, his gaze softening for a moment. I get it. Life has a way of wearing us down. But you're not alone in this, Kate. You don't have to keep going through the motions. I'm here if you want to talk. If you want to change things. His words were like a spark. Something inside me ignited. A longing I hadn't felt in years. I had built walls around my heart, kept myself locked away for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to want something more. But Noah's words, his presence, reminded me of a time when I was more than just an office manager, when I had dreams and hopes and a heart that wasn't weighed down by the past. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say anything, the door to the office swung open and my boss, Mr. Westbrook, walked in. He was holding a stack of papers, and his face looked grim. "Noah, Kate," he said, his tone businesslike. "We've got a situation. The project budget is off, and we need to fix this now." I felt a pang of disappointment, a sharp reminder of the life I had built for myself. A life that was safe, predictable, and without risk. The moment was broken, and with it, the spell that had been cast between Noah and me. I looked at him, and for a brief moment, our eyes met, an unspoken understanding passing between us. "I'll see you tomorrow," Noah said, his voice quiet, but still charged with that energy I couldn't ignore. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my heart wasn't in it. As he left, I sat back in my chair, the weight of the moment settling heavily in my chest. I had been so close to crossing that line, to stepping into a new life. But reality had pulled me back, reminding me of my responsibilities, of the life I had built and couldn't afford to let go of. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. That conversation, those words, had shifted something in me, and I didn't know where it would lead, but I couldn't ignore the pull I felt toward Noah. And I didn't want to. The days following that evening were a blur, and I found myself caught between two worlds. One was the predictable, safe routine I had built over the years: work, home, quiet nights, and the comforting presence of my cat, Cinnamon. The other was something I hadn't experienced in so long, the pull of excitement, of something more, of possibility. Every time I passed Noah in the hall, there was an electric charge in the air. His smile, his glances, the way his presence seemed to fill every corner of the room. It was impossible to ignore. But I told myself I was being foolish. I was being naive. He was my colleague, younger than me, and so full of ambition and life. What could he possibly see in me? Still, his words echoed in my mind every night as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. "You deserve more than just routine, Kate. You deserve to be happy again." And for the first time in a long while, I started to wonder if maybe he was right. Maybe it was time to let go of the past, to take a chance on something new. That voice of doubt, the one I had carried with me for so long, wouldn't quiet down. It wasn't just fear of the unknown. It was fear of getting hurt again. I had loved once. I had trusted, and I had lost. My divorce had shattered me, left me feeling like I would never be able to fully open my heart again. It had taken years for me to rebuild, to get to a place where I could live without constantly feeling the weight of that loss. But with Noah, it was different. There was something about him, his kindness, his quiet strength, that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in years. And yet, I was still hesitant, still uncertain. The turning point came on a quiet Friday evening. The office had emptied out, earlier than usual, and I found myself staying late, working through a few client proposals. It was a good way to keep my mind occupied, to drown out the noise of everything I was feeling. But around 7 p.m., just as I was about to head home, I heard a familiar voice. "Kate." I looked up, startled, and found Noah standing in the doorway again. This time, he wasn't in his usual business attire. His shirt sleeves were rolled up and he looked casual, relaxed. But there was still something in his eyes that sent a jolt of recognition through me. "Are you busy?" he asked, stepping into the room. I shook my head. "No, just finishing up some paperwork. What's up?" Noah smiled, but there was a seriousness in his expression now. A quiet intensity that made my heart skip a beat. "I've been thinking about what we talked about the other night. About living. About breaking out of the routine. I don't want to keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not. I can see it in your eyes, Kate. You want more, just like I do." I swallowed, my throat dry. "Noah, I don't know if I'm ready for this. For anything. I've built my life on stability. On being safe. And that's been enough for me." He stepped closer, his voice soft but insistent. "Safe doesn't always mean happy, Kate. I can't promise you that things will be easy, but I can promise that if you give this a chance, you won't regret it. You don't have to do this alone." I felt the weight of his words, felt the sincerity behind them. He wasn't just offering me a relationship. He was offering me a chance to live again. To break free of the walls I had built around myself. To experience something real, something worth fighting for. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. And what if I can't let go of my fear? What if I can't trust again? Noah reached out, gently taking my hand in his. His touch was warm, steady, grounding. "Then we'll take it one step at a time. Together. But don't let your past stop you from finding happiness, Kate. Don't let it steal your future." In that moment, I realized that he was right. I had been holding myself back, afraid of repeating the past, afraid of opening myself up to the possibility of pain again. That pain was part of living. Love was part of living. I couldn't keep hiding from it forever. I looked into Noah's eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me. A stirring of hope, of longing, of the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I could find love again. That I could take a chance on happiness. "I'm scared, Noah," I whispered, my voice trembling. "But I want to try. I want to see what could be, with you." His face softened, a smile spreading across his features. "That's all I'm asking for, Kate. A chance." And just like that, something inside me clicked. The fear, the doubts, they didn't vanish, but they no longer held me captive. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free to choose something new. Free to choose love. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments of discovery, slow. Steady conversations over coffee, walks around the park after work. Laughter that came more easily than I ever expected. Every time Noah touched my hand, every time our eyes met, I felt the walls around my heart crumbling bit by bit. It wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And that was enough. One Sunday afternoon, a few weeks after that fateful conversation, Noah and I went on a hike together. The sun was shining, the air crisp and fresh. And for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. Really alive. We walked side by side, our conversation flowing effortlessly. And when we reached the top of the hill, we stopped to take in the view. The landscape stretched out before us, endless, beautiful, full of possibility. Noah turned to me, his eyes shining with warmth. "This is it, Kate," he said softly. "This is what living feels like. Being here, with you." And in that moment, I realized that he was right. I had spent so much time hiding, so much time trying to protect myself from the pain of the past, that I had forgotten what it meant to truly live, to love, to be loved. I took his hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm ready, Noah. Ready to live again." And just like that, The future opened up before me, full of promise, full of hope. For the first time in years, I could say that I was truly happy. Not just content, not just surviving, but happy. Because I had chosen love. I had chosen Noah. And together, we were ready to face whatever came next. And as we stood there, hand in hand, overlooking the vast expanse of the world before us, I knew that this was just the beginning. A new chapter had started, and it was one I was ready to write with him by my side. The end. For now, as the days passed, Kate and Noah began building something real, something lasting. A love that was not bound by the past, but instead shaped by the present and the future. Their journey together was just beginning, and with each step they took, they discovered new facets of themselves and each other. Kate had found the courage to open her heart again, to choose love over fear. And in doing so, she had found not just a partner, but a new way of living, one that was full of joy, vulnerability, and the promise of a bright tomorrow. So, the next time you wonder if it's too late for you to start again, to love again, remember Kate's story. Because sometimes the greatest love story starts after you've lost everything. And sometimes it takes a leap of faith to find something even more beautiful than you ever imagined. And just maybe, you'll find your love story too.